I am the founder and CEO of a company called Fly Bodies, which is a health and wellness company that brings health and wellness services to faculty and staff at schools as well as employees at businesses. We want to make wellness services accessible to anyone and everyone that wants them and to do them for a very long time because we want to make them doable and not so out of reach that you can't do them. Anyways, let's hop into the topic today. It is the 5 stages to change behavior. It's a short video that Lori Gottlieb and Dr. Andrew Huberman had a conversation, and this was a short, like I said, 6-minute video. And this is about behavior change, changing behavior. How can we change behavior is something that I love thinking about and trying to hone in on, because a lot of what I do is trying to get people to slightly change their behavior for the biggest impact. And so I'll talk, Dr. Huberman started off with this question. He said to Lori, he said, do you recommend that your clients make specific subtle behavior changes after they have an insight, or maybe before they have the insight? And so Dr. Or I don't know if she's doctor, she says, Lori said, the reason people have so much trouble changing is because the step they have chosen is too big of a step. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say it like I can actually read. The reason people have so much trouble changing is because the step they have chosen to take is too big. And it's so true. It's so true that, like, most of the time we try to bite off more than we can chew. I would say 90% of the time, the step that we want to take when we're trying to make a behavior change is way too big. And that's why we end up not making that behavior change over the long term. She said, you need small manageable steps. This is why New Year's resolutions tend to not last very long. Change is a process. And I think this hits home for me so well because even with Fly Bodies, we come up with these grand ideas. And I have a good example here in a little bit, but just starting out really, really small first, just to get some momentum, is super helpful, because a lot of times the grand idea just takes a lot longer than you think to massage into other people's minds to get them on board. So the 5 stages of behavior change that Lori says are pre-contemplation, which is you don't even know that you're thinking about the change. Then there's contemplation, where you maybe think you should change. And then there's preparation, where you know you need to change and you start getting ready for that change. Action, which is actually making the change. You're taking a step and you're saying, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to try to make myself better. And then this is the most important part. So those are the first 4. And then the most important part, she says, is the maintenance phase, because this is what takes the longest time. Doing the action is an incredible feat in saying, like, hey, I'm going to go work out. Going to work out is awesome, but then you need to continue to work out over months and years to sustain that healthy lifestyle. So the first part about this, when thinking about the body, is a lot of times people are, talking about the New Year's resolution is like, I'm going to do 75 hard to start the year to kick this thing off. And it's such a radical change. You're going from, like, probably having Christmas and New Year's break, then you're jumping into something that's going to be radically, almost 180 degrees different than what you are normally doing. And to sustain something like 75 hard is not very sustainable for most people. It is trying to climb Mount Everest when you should just be walking up a hill to begin with. And I'm not saying everyone can't climb Everest, because people do, and people can finish 75 hard. But for most people, we need small, manageable steps that aren't 75 hard. Okay, so that's why we do these Fly 5 on a daily basis. So I won't get into that too much right now, but that's from a body perspective. So what can we do to do a manageable step in a body perspective is say, okay, this week or today, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. And then for the rest of this week, I'm going to try to walk like 4 more times. And that is consistency. That is saying, or blocking off a time to say, I'm going to take 30 minutes during this time each day, Monday through Friday, and this is going to be my workout time. I don't care what I do, but these 30 minutes are what I'm going to use to do my workout time. Even if it's 15 minutes, that's a step in the right direction. That's a manageable step. Okay. When you think about 75 days, that's 2.5 months. That is a huge amount of time. And I think most people are like, okay, that's going to change my life forever, which if you finish that, awesome. That is incredible. It's like running a marathon, like training for that and running a marathon. But what is actually the biggest impact you can have is doing 30-minute workout for 6 years, okay? And not doing 75 hard one time and then not working out for the rest of the year. So that's the point I'm making is we need to break these things down. To Lori's point is, hey, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk today and then for the next 4 days, or do a 30-minute workout or something. So that's from a body perspective. And then even you can go into the diet part as well. You don't need to overhaul your diet. That's why we do an eating window. We start with that eating window and say, I'm going to stick with an eating window. So just from a body perspective, you don't need to overhaul everything. I'm going to cut that there because I'm repeating myself now. And then the second thing about business, and I give you an example, is so Fly Bodies, we have an app called FlyFit app, and it has a challenge feature on it. And our challenge feature has actually been really, really powerful and motivating and what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember. Anyways, popular. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It's been popular. And we've worked with a lot of schools and businesses doing our challenges. And the thought I had probably like 3 months ago when I brought the challenge idea to a company called Skin Spirit, they said, hey, can you do a challenge for our customers? And I said, man, I've never really thought about that. I didn't say that to them, but I said, definitely, we could definitely do that. And so when I started mulling over on that idea, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be great. This is, we could align incentives with companies and help them get more customers in an organic fashion. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. So 3 weeks ago, maybe, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I actually went to a couple of shoe stores in the area and I said, hey, would you guys, I wanted to speak to the manager. There was a whole rigmarole and like emails going back and forth. But essentially I was like, hey, would you guys like to do a mileage challenge for your business and bring in more customers organically? Well, I got some like, this sounds awesome type of thing from some of the store employees and store managers. And then when it went up the chain, it was like, no, we're not interested in this, or this is something that we're not looking into right now. We appreciate it and stuff like that. So I'm not saying I'm going to completely go away from that, but what I did think about after I got like the momentum and then kind of hit a wall was, what's the smallest thing that I can ask these people to do in order to get acquainted with Fly Bodies, in order to get that first step with a mileage challenge and trying to get them to come on board. And I was like, man, maybe I should ask them to even just sponsor a challenge and give maybe like 5 to 10 gift certificates for people or discount codes for prizes for people to come into their store to use those. And so then I started mulling on it more. I was like, okay, maybe they don't want to run a challenge for their store yet, but if we get them to give prizes and discounts and say, hey, we're going to try to bring more customers to you by doing these challenges, and they're people in your area, so they're definitely going to come use your or want to come buy something in your store, that's probably a smaller step than getting them to try and do a whole mileage challenge on their own. And so that's what I'm going to start doing, and I'm doing it in the short term is, instead of asking them just to do a challenge, be like, hey, would you like to just, provide some type of prize for us when we do challenges for schools and companies in the area? Because then you can get more customers to do that. It's a smaller step than just trying to get them to do an entire challenge. So that's what I was getting at, is I was trying to bite off a lot to chew. And then I'll give you another example is I'm doing a mileage challenge at LA Air Force Base, and the Exchange, which is an Air Force Base store that's kind of like a Walgreens, I would say. Yeah, like a Target or a Walgreens for bases, for Air Force bases at least. And I went into the Exchange, and my original thing is like, hey, how can I get them to set up a point system so that people can get points for walking and getting a certain number of miles each month so they can bring more customers into the Exchange. because I will say Dick's Sporting Goods actually already does this. They have connected to an app called Move, and for every 300 miles that you walk, you get a $10 gift card to Dick's. So it's already being done. It's not something that's brand new, but it's something that not a lot of stores have. But instead of trying to get the exchange to automatically do that initiative up front, I went to the exchange and I said, hey, would you be open to giving some prizes or some discounts for the mileage challenge we're doing on base so that those people can come to the exchange? She was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. She even said, like, you got to spend money to make money. So we're moving in that direction of like, hey, what's the smallest step I can take that's going to be impactful and useful so that maybe over time the exchange goes, hey, actually, you know what? We're interested in doing the point system for people that are exchange members. And so that's kind of how I walked through that in my mind. And it's still something that is evolving. I still haven't asked companies in the area that are, going to be part of the LA Air Force Base Mileage Challenge. But I think it's going to be a tactic that is super helpful. So I will report back and let you guys know how that goes and see if taking a baby step like that is something that's going to be super helpful. So yeah, talked about bodies, taking small steps, talked about business. And I think a lot of times in general, we try to take a giant step because we want to see that impact. We want to see high impact, high reward. We want to see that payoff. And it's hard for us to really see the benefit of just doing something day in and day out for 15 or 30 minutes, or even just going out and talking to a few businesses and companies and see if they'll get prizes. Because we want to see that payoff. We want to get that huge payoff, but that huge payoff actually comes incrementally over time. And we usually can't see as far as, a week, 2 weeks, a month and stuff like that. So we don't know how fast it will happen. So that's all I got. Go watch that video. It's super helpful to hear Lori break down the 5 stages of change behavior. And yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully that was fun and interesting. The examples, if there's more that you want to learn about that. And yeah, just doing, and then one more thing is just doing this podcast for me is a change behavior. Like I started out doing like 40, 50, doing a ton of different topics and videos. Now I'm like, I'm just going to do one video and I'm going to talk about it for, 10, 15 minutes. And I'm going to really break it down and get into it. So now this is even baby steps, so I can do this more often. But that's all I got, guys. Hopefully that was helpful, and keep on keeping on. Get after it.